Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm thankful for another day, and I hope all is well with everyone. I'm going to speak today on living fearlessly in service. And this is for the fellowship on Thursday night. And most of the members were not there, so I'm going to send it out so you can have a chance to listen to it. When I think of a person living fearlessly in service, it is King David who became he became king after a long run. He was just doing sheep, watching his father's sheep in the wilderness. And then first we look at Samuel chapter 17. This entire teaching is going to be from Samuel chapter 17. So if you'd like to get the scriptures, you can just turn to Samuel 17 and mark them as you go. I'm starting off with verse number 15. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And 16 says, and the Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself 40 days. And Jesse said unto David his son, take now for their brethren an ephod of parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to their brethren. Now David's father was sending David to check up on his elder brothers who were soldiers in the army. And David left his sheep with someone else to tend, and he went down to see what was going on. As you know, as David arrived down there, things were just not going well. They had this huge man by the name of Goliath, who was said to be 9 feet tall, prancing around, presenting himself and saying, send me a man that can fight with me. And my understanding of it was that the camp of Israel was just cowering down. Everyone was in fear of this man. His reputation preceded him. But brothers and sisters, do you not know Yahuah's reputation preceded him? David will be the one to let us know what it feels like to know when you're backed up by Father Yah. And I'd like to say the 3 things before you go into any battle you need to know. You need to have permission from Yahuah. Now, the scriptures do not say here that David actually sought Yahuah and got his permission, but it did say that Saul told him, go and God be with you. And you need to have proven weapons. Your faith must be proven, and the weapons that you've been using. We will see that all works out with David. And thirdly, you must move with confidence. You must know that you know that you know that you know. This is the will of Yahuah. So, and David left his verse number 22. We're still in Samuel chapter 17. We will remain there. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. Um, And verse number 23 says, and as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistine, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were so afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And see, David couldn't figure out what was going on, because David had had a real relationship, and his confidence was in Father Yahuah. David spoke to these people and asked these men, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And and the people answered him after this manner, saying, sure, it shall be unto the man who killeth him. He'll get all of this. He'll get the king's daughter. He'll get his father's land will be free, and his father's land, where house will be free. And then David's elder brother saw him in verse 28. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why comest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep with in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou might see the battle. See, it seems like to me Eliab had a problem. This strong, big, handsome, strapping man, but you are afraid. Now your brother comes down here, this little pretty ruddy boy, and he's asking all these questions about what is going on. Why are people cowering down from this man? We are the only people that have the one and the true living God, and we are running from the enemy. And the old eldest brother, I think, felt bad and looked bad in David's eyes, because David answered in verse number 29, and David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him toward another and speak after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the same manner. And when the words were heard that David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said unto Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistines. Now, Saul must have thought this child is crazy. You're probably 5 feet 5 inches tall. This man is 9 feet tall. This man has fought in the army since he was a youth. And you're just a pretty little boy here talking about going to get him. But what Saul didn't know, and David knew, David was proven. His equipment were proven. David's time in the wilderness, where he sat and he sang and he worshiped to Yahuah. He told him, I love you. He sang all of those love songs to him. His heart was united with Yahuah, and he had the mind to understand what Yahuah would do for him, who he was to him, and he could present himself unafraid, announcing that I, your servant, will go. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defiled the armies of the living God. Remember right here, David's faith has been proven. But not only has his faith has been proven, his equipment has been proven. I was talking to my son Evans, and I was saying to him, as born again believers, we're not going to get out of war. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're disobedient, you're breaking commandments, you need to repent and turn from your way. You're opening up the portals for Satan to come in, and that's your invitation. So we can't put that on being persecuted because you're a Christian. But if you're living to the best of your ability, living a holy life and presenting yourself as a living sacrifice, when hard times come, you need to be able to stand still and see the salvation of Father, because you must realize that you are being proven. And Father's allowing you to go through the fire, because when you come out, he can look at you and say, this is my daughter, this is my son. He or she is well proven, and he or she will get the world done. Now, when you go through these battles and he brings you out, he's willing to send you out into the jungle, because he knows any bear or lion that comes against you, as long as you stand with him and keep yourself unspotted from the world, you can say to them, your kingdom has to come down. And that's what David knew. And so Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he is defiled the armies of the Lord. Number verse 37, David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he would deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with you. Confidence, proven faith. The same Father that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the bear. That is the same Father, Yahuah, that I'm depending upon now. And he will deliver me out of the hands of this uncircumcised Philistine. Proven faith. His own, not about what grandmother told you. It's nice to have a praying grandmother. What granddaddy told you, what the pastor told you, what the bishop told you. But what you know for yourself, what Yahuah has done for you. When it comes a time like this, you have to know your faith has been proven. And in verse number 38, Saul armed David with his armor, and he put on a helmet of brass upon his head. He also armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he assessed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David pulled them off. That was not David's protection, not his equipment. He's saying to Saul, I haven't proven these. I've never killed anything in these. I don't know about these, but I'm going to tell you what I have proven. And he took the staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones and out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. Slingshot, proven. I know what it would do. I was talking to Evans one day, and I was saying, like in the armed forces, the boots have been proven. They have to be proven that they can go through the ice, the water, the mud, the snow, the chest, the vest has been proven. The helmet has been proven. Everything that army goes out with on, it has been proven what it can and can't, what it will stand and what it will hold. David said, my slingshot, it's been proven. It brought down the lion, it brought down the bear. Now it is going to bring down this uncircumcised Philistine. And verse 41 says, and the Philistine came on and drew near unto David. And the man that bare the shield went before him. Even the Philistine had his own shield bearer. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. See, David understood when you have a covenant relationship and you're in tight with the Father and you're living under his command, according to his commandments, when someone comes at you, they comes at Yahuah. And that uncircumcised Philistine had defiled the armies of God. Because at that time, remember, the Hebrews were the only people who had one God. And they served that one God, Yahuah. Other nations had many gods, but they had the one true and living God. They were monotheic. I think monotheism is what it's called when you have one God. They were the other people were polytheism. They had many gods. And then David said to the then David said to the Philistines, thou come with the sword and with the spear and with the shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, who thou hast defiled. And the day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand. Confidence. Today the Lord will deliver me into my hands. Remember, faith proven. evidence, the lion and the bear. And I will smite thee and take the head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowl of the air and to the wild beast of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. See, you coming to me with your sword, your spear, your shield, and all of that. But I'm just coming to you in the name of my God, Yahuah. And today he's going to deliver me to you, and I'm going to give your head to the fowls of the air. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. So what David is saying is that when you belong to Father, you don't necessarily have to have a sword, a spear, a shield, but what you do have to have a relationship, proven faith that you can stand, and then you can strut about in his name and do what you need to do. And verse 48 says, and it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Most of us, when we get ourselves in bad way, and especially me, I used to remember, we cowered down, we're trying to hide out. David said, I'm running toward the enemy. I know whose name I'm running on, and I'm running toward him. And verse 49 said, and David put his hand in his bag and took Prince a stone and sling it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead and he fell upon his face to the earth. This 9 feet man with all of these shields and all of this other stuff going on, bragging about, strutting around what he could do. But an anointed man of God walked, of our God, our Yahuah, walked and said, one stone. I have 5, but I'm just going to use just the one stone. Therefore, David, when he was down, David ran and stood up on the Philistine and took his sword. Can you imagine this little pretty boy stood up on this big, huge war and drew it out of the shield thereof, took his own sword and slew him with his own sword and cut his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. You see, all the other people were standing behind this man because their belief was in this man. Their faith was in this man, Goliath. But David's faith was in the Most High, the Almighty living God, Yahuah. And he took his own sword and cut his head off. Can you see? We serve a mighty God. If we just ever get in touch with whose we are and how we can behave, what we can do in every circumstance where it looks like we're going down. That's why it's so important to keep our relationships clean and clear before the Father. And the men, and seeing other men, they ran because now their God has been taken down. This is the man that they were all behind. And the men of Israel and of Judah rose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Eron. And they wounded of the Philistines and fell down the way of Sharon, even unto Gath and to Eron. You see, what happened here is that David knew who his God was. David knew who his faith was in. David's faith had been proven. David's equipment had been proven. Now, David not only did this with the slingshot, but remember with the bear and the lion, he pulled his lamb out of their mouths. So David knew what he was talking about. I can't strut around on Thea's a testimony and said, Thea said, God did this for Thea. I need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt what God will do for Lil and what God has done for Lil. Every person must have his or her own resume. You need your own resume. When you had this hard time, how did you get out? What did he do for you? And every time you get a blessing, you get an answer to a prayer, a Father brings you through a hard time, put it on your resume. And then when you go before Father, for something else and you get through a hard place and it seems like you're being persecuted, examine yourself. Father, show me if there's any wrong in me. If he does show you some wrong, straighten it out, get rid of it, and then you stand flat-footed in front of the devil. You don't run, you don't shrink, you stand and you look him eyeball to eyeball, and you say to him, you may be coming to me with all of your demonic power, but I come to you with the God Almighty, the Most High, that has all power in his hands. And today I announce I am not running. So I say, as I close, every person needs to have a relationship where you know what Yahuah has done for you. We're not going to go through this world and just be able to escape. That's been my problem for years. I thought I could hide from the devil. You try to escape, but John is going to be there. You stay out of his way and you can't do it. It's not going to work. Father's not going to be able to use any cowards, and he's not going to be able to use people who think that they're going to keep the peace by being halfway the road. No, you stand on your own ground. If nobody stands with you and 100,000 people stand against you, Lil Hardin-Collins, needs to know who she is and where she stands. I need to know that I am footed and grounded in the word of the Most High, the living God, the God of Jacob, Abraham, and the God of me, of my ancestors, and who I am, and the God of my Savior and Lord, Yahushua. And I need to be able to say, Father, you brought me through A, you brought me through B, you brought me through C. And I know this uncircumcised Philistine in my life is nothing for you to bring me through. But even if you choose not to bring me through, I will still serve you. I will serve you until I die. When you get that kind of relationship where you turn everything loose, what you're trying to manage and control, you're ready to start living for Father. Because once you go through the fire and he brings you out, you will never be the same. I am a living witness of that. I was a person that I think, if you put it in worldly terms, was just a bag of broken pieces and a plastic garbage bag lying outside of a thrift shop, waiting to be picked up, to be hauled off to the landfill. And my father walked in one day and said, how much is the cost for that package that's outside? And the keeper said, we're just waiting for the garbage to dump it. It's nothing in there. And he said, I will redeem it. There's nothing to redeem. If you want it, just take it. It's going to the garbage. But oh my God, Father took that bag of broken pieces. He didn't restore me. He made a brand new woman. And I know what he can, what he will do. So my advice to all of us, we're going through hard times. We don't know where this economy is going. We don't know where the government is going. We don't know how long it's going to be before it's a one world order. We don't know any of those things. But what we can know, that we have a relationship with you, Yahuah. And all of us pray, love on him, worship him, and find joy in being obedient to him. And I promise you today, as we do that, we shall overcome. I remember in the old Black Baptist church, my mom used to sing, King Satan, your kingdom must come down. And Satan's kingdom will not come down as long as you're participating on his side. You got to declare yourself and to know which side that you're on. God bless you.